If you are new to the Be Your Own Kind brand, welcome. If you like what you hear and see, please subscribe to the Be Your Own Kind YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast, please follow me. Also in the description box, you can find my Linktree link to all Be Your Own Kind related matters, such as the BYOK merch, where we sell items from t-shirts, sweatshirts, masks, and mugs. Also, you will find our website and the links to my social media pages. Also, we are always looking to collaborate with others, such as business owners, vloggers, bloggers, or just if you simply want to share your story. Last but not least, if you are looking to promote your business, Be Your Own Kind will gladly promote you. If you are interested in details, please email me at info@beyourownkind.com. Thank you for tuning in and for supporting the Be Your Own Kind platform. Hello, lovelies. In today's episode, I was educated on the meaning of business and industry disruptors. For those of you that are not aware of that term, disruptors are basically innovations that are shaking up the business industry. The disruptors are happening right before our eyes, and as consumers, we tend to just roll with the changes. However, if you are a business owner, it is important to stay ahead of the trend to possibly add a small twitch that would contribute to the changes and indeed fill your pockets. Today we are meeting with award-winning business and tech consultant Keshia Richmond to educate us on the meaning of business disruptors, the importance of having a tech consultant, the impact of COVID-19 has on management innovations, and more. Let's get into it. Hello, Keshia. Thank you for being a part of Be Your Own Kind podcast. How are you today?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Keshia Richmond. Some people know me as High Octane, but I am a business consultant, a business and technology consultant. I've been doing that for nearly 30 years, and I started out working at high-profile companies such as General Electric, Computer Associates, the Marriott, and then I went to work for some small mom and pop type of software companies. So most of my experience has been in business and software. So I help small companies now actually level up on their technology and in their business.
Okay, so what made you get into that field?
It's so interesting. I knew when I went to the grocery store and I heard the cash register, I knew that I always wanted to do something that had to do with keys and money. And so when I was in high school, I followed the business program. I loved the type. I was always doing something, with business. I always was, trying to make money, doing little things on the side. Always had a hustle from the time that I was like 10. So it seemed natural, even though when I got to college, my English professor was like, you should switch to journalism. You should switch to English as a major. I didn't do that, didn't heed her advice, but nonetheless, every single job that I've worked at in my career, even the small businesses that I work for, I do a lot of writing in the form of technical documents, business plans, things like that. So it lends itself really well in terms of documentation, feasibility analysis, things like that. So.
Okay, so you're still a journalist, just a typical one.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I know today you wanted to touch upon industry disruptors. Thank you for educating me, because I got educated about it. Unfamiliar with the term, I looked it up, and according to businessleader.com, an industry disruptor displaces the existing market leaders and replaces them as the helm of the sector. And you can add to that if you want. But in my mind, an example of an industry disruptor would be like the transition from like us listening to music on a CD and now listening to it on MP3 players or on our phone at this point. So where do you expect to see more disruptors, or in the coming years, like what disruptors do you think are going to occur going forward?
Well, I would love to answer that question, but before I do that, let's talk about some of the examples that of industry disruptors. You mentioned going from compact discs to MP3 players. But in the business sense, everyday business, one of the biggest examples, and you and I know, you're going to eat when I say this industry disruptor, you're going to be like, you're right. One of the biggest industry disruptors that we know of right now is DoorDash, Uber, how they changed business, how Uber changed business so much that they make laws in California. They changed the whole industry. In New York, you had the medallion cabs, then you have Uber. So who thought of Uber? Who took that idea, took that concept, brought it to fruition via the technology, then disrupted the whole market? That is the epitome of a business/technology disruptor, because it changed the whole entire game. So what I would like a lot of our people to do in terms of, we know that, and there have been studies that show that we go into traditional businesses such as service-oriented businesses, things like that. But we want to be, and we've always been industry disruptors from the time of the cotton gin to the time of when we made peanut butter, George Washington Carver, but also being able to capitalize on that. So when you think of doing your website, when you think of doing something in your industry, not only are you creating a website just for informational purposes, for people to go there, download things, buy things, how can you disrupt your industry? And sometimes it's just a small little tweak. Sometimes something that'll just give you a competitive advantage. It might not be in your whole industry, but it might be just something that you're doing a little bit different. So I kind of what I will do is actually work with business leaders, founders, and owners who look at their business in that way. Like, how can I disrupt my industry? How can I use technology to really scale my business and to really put myself out there and do things in a different way?
That is a whole nother level, because we are innovators, but our ideas get sold to another group, so we don't capitalize on that. That's an interesting point. Wow.
We're starting to do that a little bit more, because what you have to do is you also have to be able to, in order to be able to take your idea from your idea to concept, to proof of concept, to prototype, to be able to do the business plan, prepare the documents for investments, attract investors, because Uber, DoorDash, those type of entities used venture capital funding, and they were able to bring their product to market in that manner, start from city to city and spread out. So it just doesn't mean like, okay, well, I'm going to disrupt my industry, but you also have to put yourself in a position that you can be able to access those levels of capital funding. And so that requires a totally different way of thinking when it comes to business. Do you just want to enter and be a hairdresser and have a beauty salon? Sometimes that's the biggest capacity in your business mind that you can have. Or do you want to do something large scale where you can service multiple beauty salons or multiple whatever it is that you do? So in a big, large way.
And that is where you come to play.
Yes, as a business consultant and thought leader, I sit down with my clients and help them map that out, help them see the path to their vision, help them build those prototypes, even help take them to get funding and prepare them for funding. Back in one of the projects that I did work in, I didn't even know what an industry disruptor was. I didn't even know what I was doing at this particular time. But back in the early 2000s, back in the late 90s, I actually created he was a record producer and an executive, so he wanted to find new talent. So at that time, what was hot and what we have come to be used to now is uploading and downloading music. Back then it was Napster, back then it was maybe even Yahoo, but it was on the beginning. It was on the cusp of what we know now today. But back then I didn't have that mindset to say, hey, we're onto something. Hey, we need to do this. Hey, we need to do that. So there's certain groups of people that need to be exposed to thinking on that level so that we can take it that place.
So where do you expect, or have you seen any disruptors that may be up and coming in the future years?
I can't really say for certain, but what I can say, because it's just so wide open, and the way to really think about it is you have to stay abreast of the technology. You have to, right now, if you wanted to become a disruptor, you need to be looking at machine learning, artificial intelligence. You need to be looking at different things and how they apply to your business and either future implementations of that. So, for example, how can you as a business take advantage of voice technology? How could someone say, hey, Alexa, find Renita. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Take advantage of voice search and seeing that down the pipe, and then being able to forecast to say, hey, I want to take advantage of that. What can I do now while people are not thinking about it? So what can I do?
And this is the time.
Absolutely.
Is the time. Yeah, because everyone is already trying to find creative ways to keep their business going. So why not, implement that into what you do?
Exactly. Yeah. And you should always have in your business team, your business sometimes will form a loose community of people that we keep around us. Of course, we have our accountant, our attorney, and then we have our business buddies and people, in our niche that we communicate with. But also outside of your niche, you need to have that person, that thought leader person that you can bounce ideas off of, and that person who can help you say, okay, do you remember that idea? Let's do that. It's going to be hot. That's something that you want to start looking at now, and how to get from point A to point B to point C to point D. And that's so you can take advantage of that profit and leverage.
Okay. I got my wheels turning now.
Yes. And then make something that's recession proof and pandemic proof, because those companies such as Uber and DoorDash, they're still operating. I'd be curious to see, I haven't done the research on the numbers, but who benefited during the pandemic, especially in the first phases of the pandemic. People were still ordering food. People were still, restaurants struggling to survive, were still, catering to this audience who are stuck at home and still need to eat. They're still getting money. They still have money. So they're still, and that's the big contention that they had in California, lowering the fees for restaurants and then also possibly lowering fees for the people who order. So they were still making money. So how do you make your business pandemic proof, recession proof? All of that plays into the thought process when you're thinking about becoming an industry disruptor.
And you mentioned what I feel like some businesses that thrive too is Zoom.
Absolutely. Businesses that thrive have been Zoom, but you also have to look at why is Zoom thriving? Why is Zoom thriving and not Skype? So is it really an industry disruptor, or is it just something did it just have a feature that people latched on to? Did it already have a competitive advantage that allowed schools and businesses to embrace it more readily than they would Skype? Because remember, Skype was in existence already. Me personally, I've been working at home since 1999, so this is not anything new to me. We use Skype, we use different other things. So why did Zoom take off the way that it did? That's another lesson or case study to examine, because it had been around and it's not the only one. So I don't know if it's really a disruptor, or if it had an advantage to where it leveraged that so that people would take more advantage of it.
That's a good point. You raise a good point, because I worked in the office. Now I work remotely, because of the pandemic, but I didn't know anything about Zoom until the pandemic. So you're right. Maybe it was just a discovery due to circumstances. And when I use Skype, I know it's clearer. You can record easier. Those are the only two things I can think of. So you make a point about that.
Well, we might not have the answers in our discussion, but if we really wanted to dig deeper, we could go on and really find out, What was that competitive advantage that they had to make people embrace it? Although they did have the issue with security early on in the pandemic, but they appeared to address that and recovered from it. So that's something to really think about, because we all want our business to, have that kind of bounce back and that type of leverage in trying circumstances.
That's true. I know we mentioned some brands already. Look like we're going through the questions without me asking them.
I didn't even realize.
It's good. It's good. I like conversation.
Yeah.
But what besides the brands that we named, what other brands do you think are shaking up the industry?
Well, I happen to be working with a few brands that I think that are going to be shaking up the industry, but I'm not at liberty to put those brands out there. But I feel like that, I'm definitely working with some brands that I think is going to shake up the industry. There's so many circumstances in our that we have been exposed to in terms of, civil unrest that we have seen as a result of, things that happen. So those things actually bring about a way, a thought process that said, well, how can I help in this situation? When you look at things that are happening, you're always thinking, okay, well, what can I build? What can I do? How can I help? What's going to, help? So, anytime that there is some type of calamity, catastrophe, pandemic, there is someone who is profiting. There is someone who is ready and able to take advantage. I wouldn't say take advantage in a bad way, but able to make, to use the cliche, make lemonade out of lemons. And so we have to be aware of that.
That makes sense. So in that case, do you think the election this year might play a part in that as well?
Well, how about I feel about elections? This is how I feel about election. As a business owner, business consultant, you do have to be aware of laws and things that change. But at the end of the day, your business, what you do and how you operate has to be political. How can I say it? You have to be able to pivot politically. So you got to do what you do regardless of who is president. And you can look at any big major corporation and they have to be able to do what they do regardless of who is in office. So, you know what I mean? So I don't think that doesn't really, affect me per se. I don't think it really should affect business per se. You're always going to have to pivot regardless.
That makes sense.
So you should be following, whatever laws pertain to your industry that you can see coming down the pipe. So one of my previous clients, they were a nursing home. So when a minimum wage goes up, when a new president comes in and says, okay, well, I'm going to increase minimum wage, and they have to pay their workers, their aides, their nurses, or whoever, that affects them. Those type of things you have to account for. But there are ways that you can also make your business recession proof and do things like that. But you have to be on the forefront of what's coming down the pipe,
so you could be prepared for it. So that does make sense. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Well, we talked about the impact of COVID-19. Oh, here's one. How do you think brands can keep up with these innovations? Like established brands, like how can they keep up with these innovations?
What would you consider like establishment, a brand?
I don't know, maybe Apple.
They are at the forefront of the revolution. So they're actually dictating a lot of technology. They've been on the forefront with a lot of the technology, even implementing the COVID contact tracing into our phones, the facial recognition. They're on the forefront of it already. It's about the other businesses, like small businesses like maybe you and I, people that we know. How can you take advantage of that? How can you be on the forefront of that? How can you adopt technology to be competitive in your business? But they have a whole staff of people whose job it is to, develop and do research and development, and they're years ahead of the research and development department is years ahead of what you see. So right now we're just seeing like Apple 12, we're seeing the MacBook or whatever, but the research and development department that we don't see is 10 to 12 years ahead of what we're seeing.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about small businesses then? How can us small businesses stay ahead?
Small businesses need to stay ahead. They need to work with a person like me. Because it can be daunting to be able to understand. See, some small businesses are even having issues adapting to social media. How does social media work in our business? Do we really even need social media? There's tons of businesses that are not even using social media and still making money every day, all day. And then how do you incorporate this into your business? So you do have, like you have an attorney or a lawyer, you do need to have a, from time to time, if you don't have a whole staff for technology, you do need to consult, or it is advisable to consult with a technology consultant, read trade journals, keep abreast of what's coming down the pipe. But the best way is is to have that person and to have strategic meetings, do some strategic planning with technology. So that says, okay, this is where we want to be in 6 months. Is there any technology available to us that can do this for us? Because we really like to, use robots or, do this or do that. How can we incorporate that in a way that is cost effective? So you should be tapped in with a thought leader in technology and business that can help you put you on the right track and get you thinking. But if you don't have that on your team, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, because you only have knowledge about the now.
Right. And you have to allocate funds for it too. Because when you use a technology consultant, or business consultant, their rates are a lot of times comparable to that of an attorney or an accountant, hourly and retainer. And the rule of thumb is usually you're going to spend 3 to 5% of your annual budget on tech. So that should come out of that budget, and you should allocate for that if you're really going to keep up on the technology. And that varies from owner to owner to owner. Some owners and founders are a lot more savvy than others, and they really want to go the route of tech. And then you find some are a little bit resistant or just right there in that moment. So it really depends, but definitely you have to budget for if you see that as being a competitive advantage.
Okay. Information. Thanks. So on the Be Your Own Kind podcast, we have a staple question. So if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
Octane. Octane. Yes, Octane. I didn't embrace it. It was a name that was given to me back in 2000 when I was the president and founder of the Roosevelt Alumni Association back in Roosevelt, New York. That is a community that actually gave birth to people like Dr. J. Public Enemy, Eddie Murphy. So they called me Octane because when I work with people, I like to work in a very fast, pragmatic way. And sometimes people can't keep up and they're like, oh, that's too fast. But I get things moving, I get things structured and everything. They were like, and so my treasurer was like, hey, you're like Octane. And we can't keep up. So I was like, why are you calling me Octane? I don't think that's a nice thing to say. But I didn't say that out loud. But recently I was like, you know what? I am Octane. And so I leveraged that and I brought that. So when I'm doing business, I bring that to the table. And I bring that in a table in a way that I can say, Renita, you know what? We need to do this. Let's set a date, okay? When we're going to have that prototype ready, we're going to set a date for, December 31st. I don't know if we're going to meet that, but we're going to push. We're going to get this together. When I come into a call as Octane, we're going to get things done. It's a whole different persona, okay? Okay, it's a whole different persona when I come into the room as Octane. So that will describe me, high octane, and there's quite a number of people that call me that. So yes.
That makes sense. I mean, in your line of work, you have to move fast because you're essentially 5 steps ahead of the now. So that makes sense. that
it doesn't make sense, but it does make people feel uncomfortable if they're not used to that. They're not used to working by deadlines, or they're not used to answering to anyone else. Especially if I'm not in your business or you are used to being that. So I bring a different, and then it depends on like the region. So I'm here, in Dallas, Texas, and I'm from New York, and so everything is fast paced. So when I come and bring low octane, they're like, excuse me, we don't want that like that.
Slow down.
Slow down. But then you have others who are like, bring me that octane. We need you on this call when octane comes through. Ooh. So I'm dead serious. They're like, can you get on this call because you're gonna get everything straight. You're gonna get everything straight. So octane is definitely something that would describe me, and I'm so happy that I embraced it because it just changed how I flow and do business, and I feel so comfortable doing that. So I do advise everybody to actually take that question and really think of the one word that describes them, and when they need to go into that persona and get things done, I think it really helps. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, it is. Like your alter ego, yeah. I never thought of that question.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there any future projects or anything you want to share with the audience?
I'm working on an amazing project right now. The company that's based out of Louisiana. It has to do with they're basically upping their technology in a way that is going to be able to help a lot of people who actually need that help. So I'm really excited to work on that and see, what is. I'm really confident it's going to be a success. But to really see it come to fruition, I'm excited about that. But like I said, I can't say too much. But I'm super excited about going into the new year and working with new clients. And actually today is Cyber Monday, so a lot of people are doing a lot of things and offering new products and new things like that. So I help them to be able to see what they can do for next year. So we're already planning out and helping them do a lot, and then doing some stuff with technology. So that's great.
Cool beans. I love your line of work now that I understand it.
And also a lot of people are looking for alternatives to social media platforms.
Yeah, what are alternatives?
Well, one of the things that I'm being asked a lot is how can we live stream off of our own site? Because we tried live streaming on this platform, we're being interrupted, we're being censored, we're doing this and do that. That is the number one thing that I'm being asked now. Can we live stream off of our own site, and can you help us do that so that we're not censored, so that we're not interrupted, and so that we can control our own media. So that's the number one thing that I'm being asked right now from a lot of small businesses. That can happen on your own site, but it's less likely, and you can control a lot of it. So that's really the number one request that I'm getting in terms of technology.
I didn't know that was possible. So there is a possible way for you to stream on your own website?
Absolutely. There's a way for you to stream from your own website, using your own equipment and live streaming from your site. And then pushing that out, depending on what site that you have, you can definitely incorporate live streaming from your own site, and then push it out from there, and then push it out from your own live stream, and then go out to Facebook. So if I wanted to, if we were live streaming directly from your site right now, people can go right onto your site and be like, hey, Renita's live, and I'm viewing it from your site. That way you keep all those users. You can offer them different products. They're on your site. You're increasing your search engine ranking. You're increasing your traffic. You have the opportunity to sell, cross-sell, and keep that traffic on your site instead of giving it away to these other social media platforms who have their own community rules, their own community guidelines, and then they can go down, and then they can impact and take your account away at any time. So you do want to have that backup to that.
You'll hear from me offline. I did not know that was possible.
It's absolutely possible, and it's absolutely a must. And if you ask that question about, okay, well, what's going to happen when these political candidates come in and things change? You know what I'm saying? One of the things that has been changing is censorship. And, they started changing that, like talking about COVID-19. If you say anything about the election, you get a little thing at the bottom that says, okay, or our independent fact checkers or anything, we've checked this out. So anything, so you're trying to position yourself as an authority in your industry, but at the same time, you have this thing down here where they're censoring, they can hear your words, they're doing this at the bottom, and they're adding stuff on to counter whatever you're saying. So right now it's pandemic and election related, but if you're looking ahead, it could be anything related. So you want to be able to pivot in the event that, something occurs that affects your business. Okay.
Nice. And how can you be reached so you can help us businesses?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I think that's how you and I found each other. high.octane.keshia, Keshia. That's the best place to find me right now. I'm going to be launching my site, KeshiaRichmond.com, very shortly. But my telephone number is 212-603-9601, and my email is Keshia, Keshia, at Keshia, Keshia, Richmond, RICHMOND.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Keshia, for this information. You really put some things on my mind. So so in hopes, that all the business owners that's listening to this, she's also put some things on your mind, and we need this. Like, I don't even know if everyone even is aware of such things, so I don't know, this was a wealth of information. So thank you again for being a part of the BYOK podcast today. Anything else you want to add before we end it?
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Renita, for having me. I'm so glad that we found each other. I'm hoping that we can keep in touch, and that you and I can bounce some things off of each other. It's always good to have kind of like an advisory panel thing, people that are like-minded and trying to, move forward and move their business forward and do things like that. So it's always good to be in good company like that.
Yes, most definitely. And until next time, everyone, don't forget to be your own kind and to take care of yourself and each other. Goodbye.
Thank you.